What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So yesterday, Nintendo decided to surprise everyone with one of the strangest game announcements they've ever made, but it could actually end up being one of the most interesting games that they've ever released, and we're going to go over that one here today. Also, disaster has now struck the PlayStation 5 and Returnal, as that update that was pushed out automatically to a lot of people's PlayStation 5 systems started to corrupt and erase save game files for Returnal. And the suggestion that Housemarque has right now for what people should do as they scramble to fix this is interesting. Oh, and we're also going to talk about the Mass Effect Legendary Edition that's out next week, because we did get resolution and frame rate numbers from EA, and I have to say, things are looking pretty good for Mass Effect fans right now. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton, and if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with GamesCom 2021. It's scheduled to go off in August, and originally they had it set up as like a hybrid event, which sounded like they were going to do a very small gathering of people, mostly to get out any stories and set up meetings between exhibitors and press, just to kind of have at least some information go back and forth there. But it looks like they're deciding to change their plans on that one and just go all digital. We can see this press release here where they say the German Games Industry Association have decided to hold Gamescom 2021 as an all digital event. This decision was made after extensive discussions with partners and exhibitors. Thus, the organizers take into account the current situation in which too many companies are unable to participate in physical events this year due to the still difficult development. I don't think this is too surprising, because if there was any doubt at all they'd be able to pull it off and get everyone together, they just weren't going to do that. They'd rather just go all digital and then try again next year if they can do a physical event then. And we'll see about all of that, because obviously E3 is all digital, Gamescom, Tokyo Game Show, and I guess we'll look forward to 2022 to see if we can try to have these events then. But for now, we'll be watching Gamescom at home, which is actually what a lot of us do every year anyway. Also, yesterday we did have review scores post up online for Resident Evil Village, and we can head over here to Metacritic, where it's currently sitting at an 84, and that seemed to be lower than a lot of people were expecting. I think most were expecting something closer to like a 90, but we can see the split here for critic reviews currently at a 64 positive and a 6 mixed when it comes to the review split, with 0 negative. V-Games gave it a 95, PlayStation Universe gave it a 90, Hardcore Gamer gave it a 90, IGN Portugal with a 90, and then more mixed reviews came from like Video Gamer at 50. Some of the, I guess, positive reviews overall said that the game looked great, it played really well, and it had some really good set pieces and fun action scenes, and there's a lot to the campaign, and the puzzles are overall pretty interesting. The more on the negative side, with some of the mixed or more negative reviews, talked about the game itself not necessarily feeling like a Resident Evil game, and I guess that could also be if it's too action-oriented, or I guess if you're fighting a bunch of different monsters than you'd expect. Sure, I can see that, because it is also first person. I know it doesn't set well with everyone, but I've already been sold on Resident Evil Village. We've been able to play the demos, so we at least know how it plays. We've seen it on our own TVs, so I'm looking forward to picking it up tomorrow, and then I'm sure we'll be talking about it quite a bit on the podcast Saturday night, so make sure you check that out. Oh, and we did finally get the release date for Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2 on the Switch. We can see this tweet from Nintendo where they say, grab your board and Nintendo Switch and get ready to drop into Tony Hawk the game 1+2 on June 25th. Skate through all the classic levels with some of your favorite pro skaters and a whole lot more. I loved this game on the Xbox when it came out, played through it, did all like the challenges and everything. Is a blast, especially if you were a fan of the original Tony Hawk games, while also liking like 3 and 4. They took mechanics from that and put it into Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 and just made the game overall look really, really good and play really well. Vicarious Visions did a great job with it. So I might check it out on the Switch. I'm not sure yet. I mean, I've already done everything in the game on the Xbox, so maybe I will grab it on the Switch just to see how it plays. That would be interesting, especially like a portable version of the game. Could be kind of cool to check out. But either way, though, certainly worth picking up if you have not yet. Check that one out in June. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with this interesting game that Nintendo decided to announce yesterday. We can see this tweet from Nintendo America saying, learn to make games from the minds at Nintendo. Build your own games from the ground up with the colorful and quirky note on when Game Builder Garage comes to Nintendo Switch on June 11th. So this is obviously something they weren't going to be able to show at E3 because it comes out before E3. Some people were wondering, well, why did they just drop this on Twitter? When else were they going to talk about it? Like, they're not going to have a big direct before E3, and they can't exactly hold this one till then. So there you go, a Twitter drop. It's actually already up on their website now through the eShop at $29.99. And what this appears to be is, yeah, their version of Dreams, essentially, where you can build your own game, as they say, from the ground up. And you can see some of the trailer here, and yeah, it looks kind of like the ToyCon garage, doesn't it? Where you have different squares and functions, and you link them together with lines, and essentially just builds out a program, or in this case, a game. And that is a really cool idea for Nintendo to try to do this, mostly because I saw what happened with ToyCon Garage, and some of the creations coming out of that are just absolutely wild. So they take it a step further here, and I really look forward to what people come up with building their own games with their Switch. Now, I also quickly want to go over a few things that were listed here on Nintendo's page for this game. They do mention 8 players are supported, so hey, you'll be able to sync up, I guess, 8 different Joy-Cons, new players 1 through 8, so that's kind of cool there. They mentioned the file size is 10.5 gigabytes, and Nintendo Switch Online is also mentioned, but nothing outside of that as to what exactly it will do. And I also noticed that they do talk about sharing with your friends, and I saw some people wonder, wait a minute, does that mean that you have to have them on your friends list? Well, this is how they describe it here. Exchange codes with friends to download their games and share your own. Check out the programming behind downloaded games. You can even use this feature to work with friends. And they have a screenshot here, and it does show new project and then share and receive. So the way I believe this would work is you would share your game through like a code, I guess it'll give you. You give that to a friend, they write it down or take a picture of it or something, and then they put it into their Switch, at which point it will recreate the program or the game that you have created, and then they can edit it themselves and maybe generate their own code, send it back to you. So if you are actually stuck and having problems creating your game, you could technically send it to a friend who maybe understands it a bit better or knows how to fix a problem. They can fix it, generate a code, and then send it back to you. So you can have collaborative efforts behind some of these games. And you know what? I think this whole thing is an awesome idea. So Nintendo can kind of put the Nintendo spin on teaching you how to create a game. Because like I said, the Labo setup was interesting, but not as many people checked it out because it was attached to Labo with ToyCon Garage. This is just off by itself for $30. And I think it's a great way even to introduce people into the programming field. I saw MVG get really excited about this, and that seemed to be his thought as well. I mean, if you think about it, you could even have younger kids get introduced into game building at a younger age by playing this. What a great idea. And the idea of being able to share games back and forth for editing between large groups of people is also really cool. I'm just excited to see what happens here. You know, maybe Nintendo just put this out there and said, you guys want Pikmin 4? You can make it yourself now. Next up, let's talk about the situation currently around Returnal in the PlayStation 5, because people started to notice on the Returnal subreddit that something was off after this latest update. We can, for example, see this post here, this over on the subreddit from Mountainsaw saying, I completed the game, loved every bit of it, currently working on Platinum, was doing a run after I installed the update, and I keep getting an error code of a save file, CE100028-1. I closed the game and restarted it, and there I find myself, I'm at the very beginning of the game. No items, no upgrades, no unlocks, nothing. I then found out that my save file was wiped. Fortunately, the save file I had backed up to the cloud had not been overwritten yet, and I downloaded that. Housemarque obviously caught wind of all of this, noticed that there was an issue because they tweeted out patch 1.3.3 has been pulled, and we are reverting back to 1.3.1 until it's fixed. We're fixing the issue now, and a new patch will be published in a few hours. All users affected by the 1.3.3 need to re-download the game. Our sincerest apologies. And they also go a bit further as to explain what to do in this situation. For example, how do we know we are affected? You'll get the CE100028-1 error pop-up. Just wait for the next patch if you're not sure. And they say, so to be safe, don't start the game before upcoming patches available and download. At this time, the patch is not out. I'm kind of hoping that when this video goes up, the patch will be out there. If it's not, apparently don't play the game. That's what they're saying, and that's it's an interesting suggestion. I assume this is something that they are like, they're just going to fast track. This isn't something that's going to take like a couple of days to fix because it's erasing save files in a game that is difficult as it is. And if you beat the game and then you go back as that person said, and all your stuff's gone, that'd be pretty frustrating because it's been talked about the platinum maybe being 40 to 50 hours even to get, depending on obviously how good your runs are, the rolls, if they're in your favor, with the different items and weapons you're finding. There's a lot of things that go into getting a really good run, and basically it ends up being you trying to do it over and over again until you get that good run. So to come back and all of those permanent items that you get as you're exploring and beating bosses being erased, yeah, that's not great for a game like this. So I don't know what happened here with Housemarque. Not a good look at all. And we'll see if hopefully it's fixed by the time you're seeing this video. But if it's not, and they have not made a statement on their Twitter, I guess hold off on playing Returnal, which is a shame because the game itself is pretty addicting. Like, wanting to go back to it after you're done playing and keep doing these runs is something that is actually a lot of fun, even though you're dying over and over again. So here's hoping Housemarque can get this one figured out, and then you know what? Maybe it is time for that suspend feature or checkpoint system. Next up, let's talk about the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. It's out next Friday. We'll have the first 3 Mass Effect games, and I'm very excited to pick this one up. I actually haven't played the first Mass Effect in a long time because the game hasn't aged very well, so to hear that they made a lot of updates to it through quality of life and just overall controls, very, very excited to be checking that one out. And we also found out a bit more about the resolution and frame rate around the game because, as expected, they did move them into, we'll say, current times with these systems, and we can see this here, a chart breaking these down. There are 2 different modes, favor quality or favor frame rate, and we have from left to right PlayStation 4 that will have up to 30 frames per second at favor quality for 1080p, and it will have a 60 frames per second mode at 1080p. That will be the same actually for the Xbox One. So the Xbox One VCR will have access to a 60 frames per second mode. That's great. That'll probably be, I'm sure, dynamic resolutions across both platforms there. The PlayStation 4 Pro will have a 4K mode at 30 frames per second or its own 60 frames per second mode at 1440. The PlayStation 5 will also have a 60 frames per second mode at 1440 and a 60 frames per second 4K mode. And then we have the Xbox Series S, the little $300 system alongside the Xbox One X, which will have access to 4K. So there we go. We have a 4K game on the Series S. That is something that is becoming a bit more common now, actually, at 30 frames per second. And then they will both also have 60 frames per second at 1440p. But the big one that a lot of people pointed to that's very exciting, if you have a Series X, 4K 60 or 1440p at 120 frames per second if you have the frame rate mode on. That is awesome to see the Mass Effect Legendary Edition get a 120 frames per second mode on a console, that just being the Series X. Of course, if you have it on PC, they talk about a 240 frames per second mode. So yeah, the PC is still a bit ahead on that front, but awesome to see this really across the board. Pretty good results when it comes to frame rate and resolution. Even if you have the older Xbox One, you're still dealing with the system from 2013. You can still get a 60 frames out of it. So yeah, very excited to check out Mass Effect Legendary Edition next Friday. I actually ran a poll as well that we're gonna look at here pretty soon, just to see how many people will be new to the series for it. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Fable. We haven't really had much to look at with this game because all we've seen is a very quick CG trailer just to introduce it and say, hey, we are making a new Fable game, and it's Playground Games, which is exciting to see them kind of branch off into something like Fable, and we'll see how that goes for them. But it does look like they'll be using a familiar engine for this game, as IGN did spot, as we can see here, this job listing from Microsoft, where they say, do you want to have a major impact on 3 AAA titles in development across 2 beloved Xbox franchises? Forza Tech is the engine, tools, and pipelines that drive both the Forza Motorsport and Forza Horizon series of games. In addition to adding new features like ray tracing to support the next console generation, we are also enriching the toolset to support an open-world action RPG. Fable. That's right, it does look like Fable will be built using Forza Tech, which makes sense. Playground Games knows the engine pretty well, so why wouldn't they use it? And it has also created open world games like Forza Horizon. So it's actually kind of interesting to think about this, although it was mentioned a little while ago that they used the Forza Tech engine to create Flight Simulator, which, I mean, that makes sense too. If you look at it, like I said, it's an open world sim style game. So now this is going to be really cool to see Fable, because if you look at something like Forza Horizon 4 right now, that's a big open world game, it looks amazing. So, and that's still built for like the Xbox One. They had a next gen patch, sure, but like it's still built with last generation consoles in mind. So if this is getting these kind of upgrades with ray tracing and all this, I think Fable is going to look super impressive. So just something to think about there. They're going to build Fable using the Forza tech engine, technically. Before we go to the comment of the day, we're going to the poll that I posted up where I asked, have you played a Mass Effect game before? And you know what? 41% of you said yes, I checked out at least one, and 59% of you said no, I have never had a chance to check out the series. You know what? Next Friday, you can go check it out, and you should, because the Mass Effect series is awesome. Like the first one and the second one are really good. The second one is obviously the one that everyone says is amazing. The third one, I think, was better than people give it credit for. I know the ending wasn't great, but they went back and did some stuff too. Either way though, you can't go wrong with 3 good games in the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. And it seems that 59% of you should be looking into this one next Friday. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Silver Spires Plays saying 404 spawnwave.exe has stopped working. Hey, that was pretty good timing. 404 to pull an RGT85, that's not bad there, but why is everyone trying to get Evan into trouble? This is the most upvoted comment yesterday, was about the editing mistake thrown in there. And there's a lot of different takes that happen with Newswave, and Evan cuts them all up, makes sure it's all as concise as possible, and it's not like hours long or something. And sometimes he edits them late at night. So yeah, mistakes happen. They get through the cracks with how many news waves that go up every month. That's not bad for that to happen, but hey, it's still pretty funny. So anytime it happens, make sure you point it out down in the comments. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today, whether it is Game Builder Garage from Nintendo. Are you surprised to see an entire game creation tool being published and developed by Nintendo? Let me know about that one. Then what about this Returnal save file corruption bug that's going around from the latest update? Did it affect you? Let me know about that. And then what about Mass Effect Legendary Edition? Did you miss out on the Mass Effect games back in the day? And are you going to be checking this one out next week to right that wrong? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.